everybody. Welcome to the meeting of the Grandville City Council. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Marcy, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gelderlos.
Here.
Merringa.
Here.
Norhuck.
Here.
Steenstra.
Here.
Truce.
Here.
Vanderwall.
Present.
And Mayor Mas.
Here.
So tonight for the invocation, we have Pastor Science from the Grandville Jenison Congregational Church. So for those of you who wish, I'd invite you to stand for the invocation. We're going to follow them with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's all pray together. Heavenly Father, Creator of all, we bless you and welcome you to be here with us tonight. We come together in love and camaraderie to do the work that we have each been assigned. Our city leaders have blessed our community through their dedication to serving, and our lives have been the better for it. Father, we thank you for all that they do, and ask now that you bless them with the wisdom, the skill, the knowledge and compassion to govern and care for all of us. Lord, bless our mayor, council members, and staff with your love and peace that they share with us. Father, bless our police and firefighters, our first responders and municipal workers, and keep them safe as they work to keep us safe. Father, as we prepare to celebrate this Thanksgiving holiday, let us celebrate by thanking you for the world that you have given us to live in. Guide us to care for it and protect it as we care for each other. And in Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, Pastor, thank you so much.
Thank you, and I want to wish all of you a wonderful and joyful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
You're
You as well.
Thank you. I've already gained 15 pounds just to get started.
So Council, you have before you the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve that agenda?
So moved. Support.
Support. Any comments? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposition, please say no. We also have the minutes from the November meeting. Had a chance to take a look at those. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So support.
Motion support. Anything anybody wants to comment? Any corrections, additions? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the November 11th meeting, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, please say no. Great. Presentation of the bills. Kind of a big month tonight.
It is a relatively big
Stuff's
amount.
happening, so tell us about it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll start with the pre-written checks on the amount of just over $75,000. That's almost entirely our consumer's energy electric bill, which is in the amount of just over $72,000 this time. We'll move to the regular bills. As you mentioned, we have quite a bit going on. We'll start with the bill in the amount of $10,240 to ACP Entertainment. This one's exciting to point out because it has to do with the upcoming Christmas at the Commons event. This is a lot of the activities that will take place, the train, the ice rink, etc. We have a progress payment to Dyke House Construction, Inc. This is the fire station project that I know we're getting so used to hearing about. I'm excited to share, though, that we are really only anticipating one more payment, which will be the retainage and kind of the last, the few punch list items. And we will have one more change order related to this project, but it is a good one because it's going to be a net return of funds now that we're getting towards the end of the project. So I don't exactly know when that'll come, but in the next few meetings, we will be looking to wrap that project up, which is really exciting. I would also like to point a bill that's relatively large in the amount of $216,132.25 to Franklin Hulwerda Company. I feel like I always butcher that vendor name, so I apologize. This is another progress payment for the ongoing work at the clean water plant, the mixing project, the pump replacement, as well as the blower project. So making good progress related to those. We have a relatively large engineering bill this time to Moore & Bruges Inc., but it has to do with both wrapping up the 36th Street project that many of you will see is complete for the year. There'll be some some touch-up things that'll have to happen in the spring, and then also some prep work starting for the Kennewa project that'll take place in 2025. We have the deposit, or excuse me, the down payment associated with the Quality Air HVAC purchase order that was approved by City Council on October 28th. That's in the amount of $61,733.60. And then lastly, as a little bit of a transition, I would like to point out we have the invoice for our audit services in the amount of $16,000, and we'll hear from our auditors shortly. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Questions for Griffin on any of the bills? Jay?
I just love seeing Shane's Camels on here as an invoice. I know what that's for, Teresa, so I'm looking forward to that, so.
Fun
It's
stuff.
So cool.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the bills tonight in the amount of $1,017,297.88?
So moved.
Support.
Motion support. Any other questions, comments? Marcy, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Romerega?
Yes.
Nordhook?
Yes.
Steenstra?
Yes.
Truce?
Yes.
Vanderwall?
Yes.
Gelderlos?
Yes.
And Mayor Mas?
Yes. So now, for some more good news, I think Doug Grandville from CPA firm is going to talk about the year-end financial statement. You bring good news again?
Every time.
All right.
Happy to be here tonight, just to go over this audit with you very briefly. I think you have your books in front of you, so I can kind of walk you through a couple pages, and we have a couple slides to look at as well. So, but first of all, and most importantly, thank you for having us, and go to page 1. This is the opinion on the financial statements. The opinion can be found in the second page after we come out and do the audit. We look at, we verify your financial balances, we look at your internal controls, we look at your compliance with laws and regulations. All to form an opinion on the financial statements, and it says, in our opinion, the statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city. So that's a good, clean opinion, certainly what you want to have when you have an audit completed. In addition to that, way at the very back of your report on page 67, there's a second report in accordance with government auditing standards, and this is a report on your internal control over financial reporting and compliance. If there was any material weaknesses or deficiencies in your control, those would be reported here, but this is also a clean report, and there's nothing to report here either. So just to point the two reports up to you for all the work we do. Then we can walk through the financial statements here a little bit, just paging through it, starting on page 5. And pages 5 through 10 are your management discussion and analysis. If you don't like to look at the numbers, this is a good way to just get a good feel for what an audit involves, what's in the financial statements, and just some of the highlights of what's in there. And you can see right at the top of page 5, it's titled Financial Highlights. Just a lot of work being done from the construction activity standpoint within the city. Many major street projects, there's $1.5 million was spent. The bulk of the clean water plant project was finally wrapped up this past fiscal year. A lot of different park projects going on, purchase of a new aerial fire engine, and some ARPA projects. That was mostly the parks. So just a lot of capital type items going on, and you'll see the effects of some of that as we go through here. And then pages 11 through 13. Marcy, if you want to switch to that first. These are kind of in pictures, but on the bottom of page 11, just to point out your governmental activities, which is everything other than your water and sewer. So this is on a long-term focus. It has all your capital assets in it. It has your debt, your pension liability recorded in here. But in the bottom line, on the bottom of page 11, is unrestricted net position of $4.2 million. So there's many communities today that have a negative number there. You are positive $4.2 million, which is great, which means that your assets exceed your liabilities. And then the income statement side of things, I'm sorry, I looked too quick. But the income statement side of things, this is in pictures here.
how you finish the year positively, but this slide is meant to show your expenses by each area or function matched up with the direct or program revenues. So program and direct revenues are your charges for services and all your grants and contributions specific to these areas. And what it really shows you is you can see there's a gap between expenses and program revenues. So your general revenues are your property taxes and other state shared revenues, that kind of thing. That's what's making up that gap to finish positively. So this kind of shows you where they're spent. And Public Works is a little bit skewed there because they get Act 51 money, which goes directly to the program revenues. But a lot of their expenses are actually for streets, which are capitalized, not expensed. So you can see that's really close there. So but the Act 51 money is spent on construction, which is capitalized. And then the next section is pages 14 through 17, and this is on the modified accrual basis. It's more the funds that you're accustomed to looking through as you get your information throughout the year. And on page 14, oh, I skipped up a slide already. Sorry. This is on governmental activity, just a pie chart to show where the money is coming from. I always compare this to last year's pie chart, and it's very similar to last year. It gets changed slightly by 1 or 2 percentage points, just based on the type of capital and operating grants you receive. Okay, next one. Sorry about that. Okay, this is on page 14 again, is the balance sheet for these governmental funds. And again, if you go down to the general fund, is the left-hand column. And you can see the unassigned fund balance at the end of the year is 4.1 million. And there is an amount reserved right above that of 2.1 million, which has been set aside already for the subsequent year's budget. So you're planning on spending some of this fund balance down as you did this year. And if you go to page 16, this again, I'm just kind of showing the general fund, and that's the left-hand column. You can see the general fund, about 4 lines up, went down about $750,000 this year. And I don't have it in my notes, but I'm going to remember to go up to page 47, I believe. Yeah, page 47. This is your budget to actual for the general fund, expenditures and revenues. And you can see there's no over expenditures reported here. At the end of the day, you were budgeted to use 3.3 million of your fund balance, and you actually used only 750,000, so there's 2.5 million ahead of budget. And the vast majority of that is just some delays in some capital projects and other timing things. A lot of that is going to be spent this year, actually, on some different capital items. So I'm sure I mentioned that. And then this is kind of your, back up one more. You're doing good, you're doing good. So this is your general fund revenue, just a 5-year trend information. You can see the taxes have gone up steadily over the last 5 years. The state shared took a jump this year. There's more in state revenue for a grant for your fire trucks. And you can also see the other category there took a big jump. A lot of that is related to your interest income being so much higher this year. Interest rates are up a lot, so all communities are seeing a very nice bump in their interest income. Okay, next, Mars. And then this is your expenditures by function in the general fund. And look at that big jump in the general government section there. There is a lot of building improvement outlay in there. There was a pension grant, and in fact, this year the pension portion was reallocated so that all of the pension payment is now coming out of the general government section. So that's what caused the big jump there. If it weren't for that, the other ones would be up a little bit more. Public safety took a jump, and that's primarily the purchase of the aerial truck. So you can see the capital outlay does affect these ones. The recreation is up because of those park projects that were done throughout the year, about $740,000 worth there. And the next one, Mark. This is a little bit longer term look at your fund balance in the general fund. You can see it's been hovering right about 40, 50, and it was up to 60 in 2022, and now it's starting to come down as these planned expenditures on capital are being taken care of. So you can see it's coming down this year to about 33%, and it's anticipated that'll come down a little bit more this current fiscal year that you're in the next one. And this is a little bit longer term look at your property tax revenues. Property taxes have gone up steadily throughout the years. From 23 to 24, the increase was strictly taxable value. The new millage that was approved will take effect for the 25 fiscal year, and so you'll see a little bit bigger one jump up in 25. Assuming taxable values don't fall. Okay, and then pages, back to your book. And pages 18 through 20 are your proprietary funds, the water and sewer funds, along with the internal service. Page 18, you can see the bottom line, 2 lines up from the bottom, your unrestricted net position. That's the number we'd like to focus on. It's a positive $6 million in the sewer fund, positive 1.9 in the water fund. And then the income statement side, page 19. I just wanted to point out right in the middle of the page, you can see there's a line called operating income and loss. In the sewer fund, the loss was about $274,000. It was a gain of only $72,000 in the water fund, which is good. But I wanted to point out that within that operating income and loss number, you're covering your depreciation expense. And with that new clean water plant coming online, the depreciation on that is pretty significant. It was a $20 million project. So your depreciation expense in the sewer fund is about $1.8 million. So you're covering the vast majority of that, which is good. And then just on the cash flow statement, I'd like to also point out a couple things. Your cash is in good shape in both funds. You're at $7.8 million in the sewer fund, 2.2 in the water fund. Both of those funds actually decreased for the year, but that was due to capital outlay. You bought capital assets with the cash that was available, and there was no new debt taken on, so that's a positive. Even though cash is down, it's still in good shape, and you spent the money on new capital items. And then just a couple of slides here in the sewer and water funds. Go back up, one more is the sewer fund, there we go. So this is just the overall revenues and 2 expenses. You can see just a slight loss in the sewer fund, which isn't bad. And then the water fund had a little bit of a gain. So you can see that change in that position is up in the water fund. So nothing to be concerned about, but good to point out. And then in the footnotes, just a couple footnotes I was going to mention. We have the compliance footnote every year on page 30. So it's budgeted right at the top of 31 actually. You budget following the departments. So you can see there's just a few slight over expenditures. The state has a leeway of 10% on these over expenditures, so they're not going to do anything about them. You just have to report them to you. Not a big deal at all. There's a lot of footnote detail information, your capital footnote. If you see all the activity on page 34, just all the in and out, the additions and deletions in there. There's a lot of your construction in progress that's been accumulating for several years, getting capitalized. There are a couple projects still in process at the end of the year, but you can see a lot of big numbers there with a lot of capital activity going on. And then the debt footnote, there was one new debt issue, and that's on page 40. There was an installment purchase for the aerial truck. You got an $800,000 grant plus a little bit of an installment purchase of about $500,000 to get that paid for. I'm sorry, it's right at the bottom of page 39, $500,000. And then just wanted to point out, pension was always an important one to take a look at. And the easiest way to see that is on the historical trend information on page 50. On the right, this is reported as of December 31 because that's when MERS completes their reports. But you can see it's been right around 60, the lower 60s to the upper 50s% funded. The third line up from the bottom is at 62% for 2023, which is again December 31st, 23. So you made progress. It was 56% the previous year. You did receive a small pension grant from the state to help supplement that of about $250,000. So that bumped that up slightly as well. That's my report. Is there any questions or anything you saw that I could shed
slide on, or?
Questions for Doug about the audit report?
Overall, it looks very good.
Jane, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you did a great job.
Well, you did too. Thank you. So Jane, I've got a question. I was in your office and you received a check recently?
Oh, yeah, so a lot of you have been following along with the, ARRA credit that we applied for the, environmental sustainability work that was done at the clean water plant, or at the clean water plant as part of that $20 million project, and we received an actual check in the mail today from the IRS for $3.67 million, which we promptly deposited.
Too bad that doesn't go in the general fund, right?
Yeah, that's
Good. I don't know if
true.
that's-
No, clean water plant needs it. They have a lot going on over there.
Another question for either one of you that I'm always interested in, and sorry I didn't give you heads up, but when we talk about, we always want a fund balance of 15%.
Yeah.
So that's unrestricted fund balance vis-a-vis our general fund budget. So
Yeah.
where are we at with that?
Right, I think he said right around 33%.
Oh, okay, it is that amount.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the total fund balance, so the unassigned fund balance is down right around 27%. So it's still well above the goal of 15%.
But as a council, you're doing a very good job pushing those dollars back out into the community and into infrastructure, which is where it's supposed to go. That's why you want a 15% fund balance, because then you know you've done your due diligence with tax money that you've collected from your taxpayers, and you're putting it, or you have a plan to put it back out into the community or into your own infrastructure to make sure that we are not falling behind in technology and things like that.
Any other questions for Doug about the audit report? You can bring
Thank
good-
you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
bring good news like that every year. He does, yeah, that's right. Okay, time for public comment. Anybody here tonight like to? Kim, welcome.
Thanks. Kim Chrisman, 4439 42nd Court, Grandville. As the chairman of the Parks and Rec Board, that's why I'm here tonight. I've got two things. One that I wasn't intending, but one that I'd like to ask the council to consider in the next budgetary go-round. And that is increase the funding for community involvement. I don't know what where it hits in the budget or not, but Grandville PD has done a tremendously great job with police in the parks. And we've been proud to help sponsor some of the program that the chief has put together. And our funds are limited and dwindling because we're a cost center? No, we're not even a cost center, we're not even a profit center. But I would appreciate it if you would consider increasing his budget so he can do more with police in the park. It's been a success. Second thing is, the 5-year plan is updated, is being updated, and the board recommends that you review it and accept it and move forward. We have taken what we haven't accomplished and kept that in it and added more to it through community involvement, the 198 respondents in the survey for it. So I'm just asking, and the board is recommending that the city council approves it, moves it forward, and move on for the next 5 years and keep it moving forward. That's all I have to say.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks for.
Any questions or any?
Anybody else like to make public comment? That's fine. I'm just wondering, should we have a motion to accept the audit report? Is that something we need to do, or not
You
necessarily?
don't need to, but
Okay.
you're welcome to. It's sure not gonna hurt.
Motion to accept.
Thank you. Support? Yeah. Any comments, questions? Marcy, would you call the roll on that, please?
Councilmember Norhuck,
Yes.
Steenstra,
Yes.
Truce,
Yes.
Vanderwall,
Yes.
Gelderlos,
Yes.
Merringa,
Yes.
and Mayor Mas.
Yes. Matt? ordinances and resolutions, you've got a lot going on.
I'd like to take credit for it all.
Well, Matt's coming up, I'll give you guys just a touch of a background.
Sure.
We've got, 3 different, kind of packages of ordinance amendments for you all to hear a little bit about today. They were brought to the, Planning Commission on November 6th, and, Assistant City Manager Matt Butts is gonna introduce them to you today. Just as a little bit of background, he will be here to introduce them. Chris Corey from McKenna will be here on 12/9. So if there are any major questions or concerns that arise while they're being introduced today, please let us know. We'll work with Chris between now and then, so you all can get any additional information or answers to any questions you all may have before considering the vote at that time. But Matt, go ahead.
Right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. So the planning commission has been busy. The first amendment that is being proposed is changing the way we think about parking. For years, cities, including Grandville, planned parking like we planned for Black Friday. We wanted big lots full. Unfortunately, we know the reality of retail now. We're also working with the new owners of the mall, and they've shed some light on how we calculate parking. And that's not the national trend anymore. The new national trend is go from the gross floor area, which is the way we do it, to gross leasable area. So that's the amendment to section 8.03.c. For all commercial districts, that's OS1, OS2, C1, C3, and C5, go to that gross leasable area calculation. A little bit more onerous on our side of things as we work with proposed uses and proposed new buildings, find out what that gross leasable area is, no longer just a calculation of the outside of the but it's way to the future. So we want to be part of that. It also helps them all out as we work with them, as they figure out what they want to do with that building. Okay, answer any questions on that?
So quick question on that, Matt. So in the future, if we have commercial business owners or property owners that come to the planning commission with a site plan where they want to do like an expansion or whatever, in the past we've had limitations because maybe their site is built out as far as parking and stuff. This potentially gives them an opportunity to do more additions or gives them flexibility with any building additions because the parking restrictions would be a little bit.
Correct. The gross leasable area would take account like hallways, restrooms and things like that, only the space that the business could actually use. So we'd have to ask for that up front during the planning commission review of the site plan, find out exactly what those numbers are that we're proposing.
A line I really liked, if I can interject, from both of the new owners of the mall and a few other businesses we've been communicating with is, it doesn't do a business owner any good to not have adequate parking. But it also doesn't do them any good to be overparked and have essentially wasted space in parking spaces that aren't being used, that could theoretically be used for something productive. So I think that was an important part of the conversation that we had, is no one's goal is to reduce the parking requirements to the point that there's not enough parking or we're causing, undue impacts to the community. It's really to just adjust the mindset that we've had that has really led nationally to a lot of commercial areas being significantly overparked.
This really helps, especially if you think about stormwater quality, right? We want to reduce the area of impervious surface. This helps us towards that goal. Again, happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Matt? JR? Carolyn? Anything you want to?
I think you nailed that, Carolyn, I think.
No, just as Matt said, we're seriously considering why we have to have 16,000 parking spots and we only have 8,000 people using them.
So we don't have here in our materials a proposed ordinance.
What we have before you right now is the red line version that would show you the changes. But because the way these ordinance amendments would work, it's not one word or it's one section. The way they'll get brought to you all is essentially a rewriting of the entire article.
Okay.
So this is, in a way, actually showing you what that will look like, in my opinion, in a more understandable way. But if this is something you all would like to move forward with, we'll bring the formal, ordinance amendment that you all would ultimately need to vote on, at the following meeting, but it'll look very similar to this in the sense of a
So,
rewriting of the
Should we introduce this and table it now, or?
That would be what would be suggested tonight,
Okay.
if you all are comfortable.
Comments, questions, or motion to introduce and then table?
Motion to introduce.
Thank you.
Support.
And support. Motion to introduce, and that's, changes to Article
24,009.
2400. Okay, Marcy, would you call the roll on that, please?
Councilmember Steenstra,
Yes.
Truce,
Yes.
Vanderwall,
Yes.
Gelderlos,
Yes.
Merringa,
Yes.
Norhuck,
Yes.
and Mayor Mas.
Yes. Now is there a motion to table that?
So moved.
Support.
Motion to support, any comments, questions? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, please say no. Okay, next.
Okay, the next is proposed ordinance 24,010. These are a number of proposed amendments to Article 10 of our zoning ordinance, which are form-based codes. I'll quickly run you through what some of those include. First is section 10.06. Establishes new dimensional regulations in the form-based code, again, compared to what other cities are doing, compared to what we are doing. Some of the goals are of downtown development authority and planning commission. And we basically, instead of listing all these things in language, creates a table. Tables are quick and easy to use, not only for our staff, but also for future potential developers. Probably the biggest part of that you may see is in one of the footnotes, is that by right, buildings in downtown, the core downtown could go up to 4 stories. Planning commission could approve something up to 6 stories. We've already kind of broken mold with the Grand Castle. So it's a potential you may see in the future for if the right developer comes in. We want to do 4 stories, say mixed use, and things that's designed well, the planning commission, the VDA, we think this is the right place, the right time, they could approve up to 6 stories. Under, again, stop me, because I'm gonna go through a lot. If you do have questions, just holler, we'll talk about it. Under section 10.07, this amended section deletes all form-based code dimension requirements, as, just like we talked about, they're all going into the chart, so that section is deleted. 10.07C, this section, it talks about civic buildings in the form-based code. It exempts civic buildings from having to meet very stringent form-based code requirements. Civic buildings may include things like city halls, theaters, performing arts centers, museums, sports facilities, educational institutions, libraries, and what have you. The planning commission would have to approve that civic building as a special land use process. Under section 10.08, section is amended to remove all language referring to building height. Because again, that's part of one of the dimensional requirements that's covered now in 10.06. 10.09 deals with accessory provisions in the form-based code. Replaces all form-based code off-street parking requirements and adds them into a new parking calculation chart. Again, putting things in chart makes it easier for everyone to understand. And in the form-based codes, however, in the rest of our commercial zones, we're going to the leasable floor area. We're sticking with the usable floor area, usable floor area, excuse me, in our form-based codes. And there's a whole chart for that. You've read the red line section. Under section 10.10, amended section permits the planning commission to approve deviations from the form-based code requirements when considering a site plan application. planning commission may grant deviations when the applicant shows superior design standards or compatibility with the surrounding land uses. The zoning board may consider a variance of any regulation not specifically called out in the form-based chapter. Section 10.12, this section deletes the reference to both the variances and deviations as they are covered in section 10.10. 10.13, the amended section makes it easier for existing non-conforming structures and uses in the form-based code to expand when approved by the planning commission. We're starting to run into this a little bit now that we've had some history of the form-based codes dealing with existing non-conforming uses and structures where a business wants to expand, and unfortunately, per the code, you cannot, because you're no longer a desirable use, or there's an issue, say a setback issue with your building that prevents you from adding on. There's two cases right now that we're dealing with that, and this would help both those businesses either build a brand new building or add on to existing. And that is all I have for the form-based code section. I'd be happy to answer questions that you may have.
Matt, I'm sure it's in here somewhere, but where in section 10 does it talk about building height being allowed up to 6 stories?
That's in that section.
It's in
10.06.
one of the graphs or the?
Yes, it's on the first graph,
Okay.
a footnote, number 2.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, good.
And my understanding, for what it's worth, is this, again, is really a package of ordinance amendments associated with the form-based code, related to the downtown, is really intended to support and spur investment and the redevelopment that the community has been looking for the last handful of years. It would create some additional flexibility for both property owners and the planning commission to get creative to create this type of development that the community has said through its master plan and equally through its zoning ordinance would be desirable.
A couple questions. I guess, I can't imagine that we would have a 6-story building downtown, but I suppose it's theoretically possible. But I'm curious, why the requirement there, if that's the case, that all stories above the second floor have a step back of at least 10 feet? I mean, I know it says for rooftop decks or other residences or businesses, but what's the practical purpose for
That
that?
often has to do with massing. So when you start to get buildings above 3 or 4 stories, they start to feel a lot bigger. And by starting to set them back at the second story, you can actually get to a 5 or 6 story building that doesn't quite feel as big or out of
Okay,
place.
so it's sort of because of the perception of.
Yeah, it's a feel, or the technical term I've heard a lot is massing. It's a massing item.
So you probably don't even really notice it when they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
Notice if they didn't.
I'm never gonna sit here and say you're not gonna notice it, but it definitely doesn't make it feel as out of place. So take this for whatever it's worth. You know, there was a large development I was part of in a previous community, and they had a very similar requirement where up to 3 stories, essentially, you build them all the same size, but anything over 3 stories, they had to start setting back, and it was for that same reason. It's kind of that flexibility, best of both worlds piece.
So it could be set back without there being a deck or something, but.
Theoretically, architecturally, it could be. I think most people start to see decks, or they don't want that wasted space, but yes, theoretically,
Or
that'd be
it
correct.
could start to get a little bit more narrow as well.
Yes.
Okay. Then my other question for you is about the upgrade to existing piece that you were talking about.
Yes.
Is there any standard that describes what would consist of an existing building? Like, is there X% that needs to be maintained intact of the original structure for it to be considered an existing building?
Current ordinance
we've
talks
seen it
about
as-
the total value of the SEV, no more than 50%. I think that what's in the ordinance is being proposed is 30% of the value, Griffin, is that right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. we'll get you that next week.
Okay, I was just curious, because I mean, I understand the requirement for it or the intent behind it, but I would also hate for somebody to use that to take advantage of, you know, skirting the form-based code rules and then tearing down the existing building once the new building is built, and then building new, you know, new building on the old existing building, whatever, you know what I mean? Like we've seen a couple of examples of that in residences.
We have, but again, we have two examples that we could discuss with you that, again, they're existing uses, existing buildings, non-conforming, both of them, that they're trying to improve, and would you rather have a non-existing building that's gonna sit there and just not look so good, or actually allow for a non-conforming building to add on and look nicer?
Right.
More conforming than what was.
Yeah, no, I agree with the intent, but I just want to make sure that there's something in there that sort of protects from those that would look for people to skirt the rules.
Understand.
Justin?
Yeah, I think you addressed this, but I was flipping through it, so I'm not sure like all of it. But it says to eliminate the current deviations and waiver system in favor of only allowing the planning commission waivers for parking and landscaping as described above, and then requiring all other variances to be referred to the ZBA. What was the impetus for that? What, like, why is that?
And that was always the intent of that section, is don't have variances go to the zoning board.
Okay.
Have the planning commission handle deviations of the form-based code. That was always the intent when we started creating the form-based codes, for whatever reason.
But the practice has not always been that, or, okay.
So this is a fix.
It seemed like the planning commission was just getting all these requests and then kicking them over and saying, not our problem.
Okay,
And then they have to go meet with somebody else,
yep.
right? And so it kind of
It
eliminated.
delineates who you go to a little bit better with this language then. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Matt on the proposed amendments to Article 10, form-based code districts?
Of the three before you this evening, this is definitely the most kind of complex one. This has the most moving parts, so obviously recognizing that, you know, if there's additional information you'd like or want us to have Chris prep for at the next meeting, please let me know. Again, I think we have some support. Teresa was involved in some of these conversations from the DDA's perspective. The Planning Commission obviously was involved. Our zoning's evolving as always, but trying to really spur some of that development the community's been looking for.
JR, Carolyn, anything you'd like to?
No,
Like
besides
a lot
what's
of work's
going
been
on.
done with it, so.
Pardon?
Looks like a lot of work has been done on this.
Yes, and as Griffith said, we've had some serious concerns relative to the DDA bringing to our attention, and we've had some developers who felt they couldn't afford to do what they wanted to do with the restrictions that were placed on them. They could if maybe they could build a higher building. They could if maybe they'd take the existing building and just make some little additions, but it was non-conforming, and the minute they would try to do something, we'd say, oops, it was non-conforming, so now you're gonna meet all the new standards, and it's like, we're not gonna do that, you know? Why should we have to build a new building, so to speak, when all we wanted to do was to enlarge the front door? So,
Good. Is there a motion to introduce the proposed amendments to Article 10, form-based code districts?
I move we introduce ordinance number 2410.
Thank you.
Support.
And support. Other comments or questions? Marcy, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Truce,
Yes.
Vanderwall,
Yes.
Gelderlos,
Yes.
Merringa,
Yes.
Norhuck,
Yes.
Steenstra,
Yes.
and Mayor Mas.
Yes. Now is there a motion to table that?
Motion to
Support. Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor of tabling, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, please say no. Great. Next is proposed ordinance 24-011 regarding landscaping, Article 16.
Yes, thank goodness we're out of form-based codes. So moving on, under section 1604 and 1605, this is something the planning commission has been working on. And seeing this with some real world requests is when you have two compatible uses, a new one being located, actually I got one in the works right now, is a fourplex being located next to a multifamily. Technically, they're the exact same use, they're both multifamily. the new fourplex wouldn't have to put a screen up to screen that property from those surrounding multifamily. Now, across the street, there's some single family, you betcha they gotta put some landscaping and buffer yards in to screen the single family from the new fourplex. So it does that, it also puts things, again, talked about charts previously, charts make everything easier to understand, so we're putting things in the chart, they have to answer questions they may have.
I think this one's noteworthy in the sense of, there's actually been 2 cases since I've been with the city where applications that have gone to the planning commission got approval, but before they could move forward, they had to go to the zoning board of appeals to request variances for, I guess what I will say is what a lot of people thought were relatively minor landscaping items. And it's quite common when you get more than one of these situations in a relatively short period of time. Maybe it's not really something that should be considered a variance. Maybe we need to take a look at the ordinance and see if it's actually functional. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but it's my understanding that that was a large part of why the landscaping requirements were originally brought up this time.
We had 3 in the course of 2 meetings,
There you go.
and
The sheer number of plantings just was almost obscene. And I love planting trees, but it was like, why would you have to put in that many just to screen it from a neighbor's home when there's already X number there? So, and then the same thing, Justin, we were kicking it down the street to the ZBA for them to just say, well, why can't the planning commission just decide this, you know? We've seen a site plan up there. So, this seems like an overdue amendment, in my opinion.
Yeah, now, it looks like it's very much simplified by having it in the chart, rather than
Again,
words.
all of these proposals bring tonight, stuff streamlining zoning and understanding zoning. Whether it's the form-based code, it's landscaping, or it's the parking. So it's, again, our efforts to modernize our ordinance. Do what we can. Have to answer any questions.
Questions for Matt about proposed amendments to Article 16, landscaping. If not, is there a motion to introduce zoning ordinance 24-011 regarding landscaping, Article 16?
Support.
Motion support. Any discussion? Marcy, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Vanderwall,
Yes.
Gelderlos,
Yes.
Merringa,
Yes.
Norhuck,
Yes.
Steenstra,
Yes.
Truist,
Yes.
and Mayor Mas.
Yes. Now is there a motion to table that until the next meeting?
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, please say no. Okay. Consent agenda, we have a number of items and some purchases, so approval of consent agenda would be in the best interest of the city. We've got the investment report from October and the minutes from the Environmental Sustainability Committee from their September and October meeting. And also the minutes from the DDA meeting just last week or the week before, November 14th. Also proposing rescheduling our December 23 meeting, which is Christmas Eve, to December 16th. And then a couple purchase orders. The airbag exhaust removal system and a couple things at the clean water plant, and there's memos on that. One is the portable gantry and the safety railing. Todd, anything you want to add to what's?
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda in the best interest of the city?
So moved.
Motion. Support. And support. Anything anybody'd like to talk about? Everybody good with changing the meeting date? Chair, you're going to be gone on the other side of the universe.
This will be my last meeting of 2024. So I leave on the 9th and I return on the 16th to New Zealand, so it's not ideal, but that's okay. I'm just one.
Well, we expect a report on your travels, so. We have motion and support. Any other Marcy, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gunderlos.
Yes.
Merringa.
Yes.
Nordhook.
Yes.
Steenstra.
Yes.
Truce.
Yes.
Vanderwall.
Yes.
And Mayor Mas.
Yes. Griffin, city managers report.
Well, the good news is there's no action items that need to go before you. The bad news is I have a couple announcements to share. First, we included some supplemental information in the packet that I'm happy to discuss more, but more than anything, just thought you might want to take a look at some things such as the winter outlook for this upcoming year and some other information that we've received over the past few weeks. The mayor mentioned that we're really excited to share that at the time of the writing of our memo, we'd received a letter that we would be receiving the IRS tax credit. I'm really excited that we received that earlier today. Jane even let me hold the check before we put it in the bank. So
I said it should be heavier.
Yeah,
You should have brought it in
agree.
like on a giant cardboard.
But nevertheless, I can confirm we did receive that, and that's very exciting. That's great creative work that the team was able to do to be able to receive that money that we can reinvest into the sewer fund. Would also like to share and give credit to the DPW team. I know they've been working really hard to see what grants they can get when it comes to different road and bridge projects that will be coming up. So for a project that's likely not going to take place till fiscal year 2027, I am excited to share that we are going to receive a notable amount towards one of the bridge projects that year. So that's a lot of good work by Charlie and his team, and I know they're going to continue to work to find ways to get the best value for our taxpayers' dollars. So that's just a really exciting one that I thought you all may be interested in at this point in time. I would also like to share that unfortunately we did receive an email sharing that Jim Jensen and his daughter Anissa are going to be resigning from the 4th of July committee. They've shared with us that they have additional outside work commitments and don't think they'll have the time this year. I know that Amanda is trying to follow up with them to have some conversations and pick their brains a little bit. And, hopefully this is maybe just for 1 year, because I know how much, or I've heard in my short time here, how much they have done in the past few years and many years when it comes to these events. So I just wanted you to all be aware of that. And lastly, I'm just going to say thank you again to Jane and the finance team for all their work on the audit. Again, it should be expected to get a clean audit like this, but nevertheless, you don't want to take it for granted when you do get it. So thank you very much to Jane and her team. I know they put a lot of extra hours into making that go as smooth as possible for the community. I don't have anything else to share right now, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Griffin? Okay. Councilmember comments, JR. Last meeting of the year.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things on December 7th that looks like a lot of fun. Christmas at the Commons, Shane's Camels. It's gonna be there, right, Teresa? And then ESC is putting on another invasive species project earlier that day. We're at Millrace Park, so if you're around, check that out. And yeah, I just suppose this is my last meeting of 2024. I was anticipating going on December 9th and not the 23rd, but, so I guess happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Paul?
Same to you, JR, and I have nothing else to add. Thanks.
Yeah, Kim left, but I wanted to say thanks for his years of leadership. You're changing leadership on the board, so appreciate everything publicly. Want to say appreciate everything Kim did. Jane too, and the department heads to use the auditor language. It's great to read a clean report. And I've been here 5 years, and the audit report has always been a clean report. So it says a lot about our departments and the day-to-day work here. Thank you. Matt, good work too. Glad to have you back. And it's exciting work working on zoning ordinances, especially form-based codes, I'm sure. But it's appreciated. Marcy, thanks for this election summary. I always love reading that and seeing how the city of Grandville votes. So thank you for taking time to do that. And Teresa, the sign on the Grandville pub says coming soon. Can you share anything? What's coming?
That's a good question.
Okay.
There's not a lot of communication. I believe they're opening as is with the Peruvian menu. Last time I talked, they had one employee who was the front, the back, and the bar. So, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But we keep reaching out, and I may know when you know, or I may know before.
Okay. Keep us posted. Thanks.
Justin?
All right, echoing a lot of what was already said, but thank you to Jane and all the department heads, everyone who contributes to the good stewardship of our tax dollars and the cleanup. That's wonderful news. And thank you, Charlie, as well, for your work on the funds that were awarded for help with the bridge, because I know the bridges have been weighing on all of us as we think of what the future might hold. So seeing this was really welcome news, and thank you for your hard work on that. Much appreciated. In the spirit of JR talking about us sharing more from the committees that we serve on, I did want to just share a couple things from the library board. And one is that the library board oversees some funds that have been donated by the Nelson Foundation. And the Nelson Foundation has a target of trying to improve accessibility for persons with disabilities. And so they have gifted this money to the city and asked the library board to be the caretakers of those funds. And some of the things that we've contributed to have included things like the music garden that was put in. The Nelson Foundation was able to make that donation through the work of the library board. We have supported a lot of area events that have brought accessibility to the forefront. My daughter attends SIB Shops, which is for siblings of people with disabilities. It's a wonderful organization, and the Nelson Foundation has supported a lot of work that they've done and handed out books there. And long story short, the Nelson Foundation has been really happy with the work that the Grandville Library Board has done, and so they have asked us to submit a request for additional funds, and they intend to give more money to us. So well done by the library board on that. And then also, at Christmas at the Commons, the library board will be selling exclusive ornaments that say Grandville on them. They're wooden, they have a little map with a heart on where the city of Grandville is with our coordinates, and they're pretty cool. And they will be $15. They're limited in quantity, so get there early if you want your Grandville ornament. But looking forward to that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Josh?
All right, a lot of what I said has already been mentioned. Again, thanks, Charlie, as you mentioned that. Bridge grant as well, so that's really welcome news. And Jane, will be definitely putting that to use over the next couple of years, so that's great. So Tim mentioned the park board, yes. So Kim will be finishing his last year this year as the vice chair of the park board, and Brent Talon has stepped up to be the chair. So we've got a little transition plan going on there for the next year, so I appreciate your comments. So we have a draft of the Park and Rec plan revision. I don't think you've seen it yet, but you'll be seeing it soon. We'll be looking at that, I believe, at the next meeting, and then setting a public hearing for kind of final adoption of that and recommendations to move that forward to the state. So keep an eye out for that, but thanks to everybody that put input into sharing comments and feedback on the park plan revisions. And then the last thing I guess I just wanted to mention is the LEAF program. I appreciate the fact that the city picks up leaves curbside and provides facilities to drop them off. I know I've seen a lot of people there using the Public Works drop-off location. There's a ton of leaves back there. Every time I go back there, I've been there 3 or 4 times now, there's always several other people coming and going and dropping stuff off, so I know people appreciate that. But just wanted to mention, I believe the curbside pickup ends the 26th, tomorrow. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, I see a lot of bags out on the curbs with stickers on them, so just so everybody knows they got 1 more week yet this week of pickup for leaves through tomorrow. So, but appreciate you guys continuing to do that. I know people appreciate it and it's well used, so that's it. Thanks.
Brandon?
Great news on the grant. Thrilled. It's a big win. Hopefully we still get a little more, but anyway, other than that, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And I was thinking today about what a great community we have and how fortunate and blessed we are to live in Grandville, especially how many people that we have who work hard for this city on a volunteer basis, all our boards and commissions, and also our staff. So for all of you guys, thank you for all your hard work and what you guys do for Grandville. It's noticed and appreciated, and we all benefit from
Only one thing, one comment I wanted to make. You know, we, as a council, decided to dedicate all of our ARPA money, or most of it, toward parks and so on. And if any of you have any question about whether we made the right decision, I would encourage you to go to one of the parks on a Sunday afternoon, like my wife and I did yesterday. There were tons of people out there enjoying it. I think that was a great decision. Parks look great. We were at Heritage, was the new boardwalk and so on. It looks fantastic. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So,
I just wonder sometimes how long would he sit?
I might make that motion otherwise. All right, all those in favor of adjourning, please say yes. Yes. Any opposition, please say no. Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.